There are women who move through this world carrying something the rest of humanity has forgotten. Edgar Cayce, the legendary sleeping prophet who gave over 14,000 documented readings, called them advanced souls, consciousnesses that have journeyed through multiple lifetimes, accumulating wisdom that transcends a single human experience. You feel it, don't you? That inexplicable sense that you don't quite belong in this era. That exhausting awareness that you see things others cannot see, feel things others dismiss as imagination. According to Edgar Cayce, this is not coincidence. This is soul memory. What you're about to discover are 12 unmistakable signs that you are not simply living your first rodeo on this earth. These are not personality traits you can develop or habits you can cultivate. Edgar Cayce discovered through his psychic readings that old souls carry specific patterns, recognizable signatures that reveal themselves whether you understand them or not. And here's what nobody tells you about being an old soul woman: it's simultaneously your greatest gift and your deepest burden. But wait until you hear sign number 9. This one will explain why you've always felt like you're living in the wrong century. These signs don't make you special. They make you responsible. Edgar Cayce said that advanced souls incarnate with specific missions, particular lessons they've agreed to learn and teach. If you recognize yourself in what follows, everything about your struggles, your loneliness, your difference will finally make sense. Let's begin. Sign 1, the unquenchable spiritual hunger. The first sign appears as a hunger that nothing in this material world can satisfy. While others find contentment in their careers, relationships, and possessions, you wake each morning with a question burning in your chest: what does this all mean? Edgar Cayce said that old souls possess what he called soul memory. An unconscious remembrance of spiritual truths learned across multiple lifetimes. This manifests as an insatiable need to understand the deeper meaning behind existence. This isn't casual curiosity. This is survival. You cannot ignore this hunger even when you try. You've attempted to numb it with achievement, relationships, distractions, but it always returns, more persistent than before. According to Edgar Cayce's readings, this spiritual seeking is your soul remembering its true home. He said that the soul carries imprints of every place it has lived, every culture it has participated in. According to Edgar Cayce, these aren't random feelings. They're actual soul memories breaking through the veil of conscious forgetting that occurs with each new birth. You might feel an inexplicable connection to medieval Europe, to ancient Egypt, to indigenous cultures you've never physically encountered. When you study these periods, you're not learning, you're remembering. But here's where it gets interesting. Stay with me. Edgar Cayce discovered that these affinities reveal your soul's curriculum, the specific lessons and missions you've been working on across multiple lifetimes. If you're drawn to Celtic spirituality, your soul has unfinished business with those teachings. If Japanese culture calls to you, there's something there your consciousness needs to reclaim. This recognition can be deeply unsettling. You stand in a place you've never been, and your body knows the layout before your mind does. You study a historical period, and the facts feel wrong because your soul memory contradicts the official narrative. Other people collect travel memories. You collect proof that you've been traveling much longer than this single lifetime. And that changes everything about how you see yourself. Sign 3, natural compassion that flows like water. The third sign reveals itself in compassion that requires no effort. You don't have to remind yourself to be kind. You don't cultivate empathy through moral discipline. It simply flows from you like water from a spring that cannot help but give. Edgar Cayce said that old souls have learned through countless lifetimes of suffering and joy that separation is the ultimate illusion. According to Edgar Cayce's readings, advanced consciousnesses perceive the fundamental unity of all beings not as philosophy but as lived reality. When you witness someone in pain, you don't observe their suffering from a distance. You feel it in your own body. The boundaries between yourself and others are permeable in ways that can be both gift and curse. Your desire to help emerges without need for recognition or gratitude. You give because giving is simply what you do, as natural as breathing, as involuntary as your heartbeat. But here's what nobody warns you about: this exquisite sensitivity means you carry the world's pain more acutely than most people can imagine. Edgar Cayce discovered through his readings that empathic souls often incarnate specifically to serve as spiritual antennas, consciousnesses that feel humanity's collective suffering so they can transmit healing energy back into the collective field. You cannot easily turn away from pain or dismiss it as someone else's problem. You watch the news and feel humanity's anguish as if it's your own. You encounter a stranger's eyes and immediately sense the sorrow they're hiding behind their smile. This isn't weakness. According to Edgar Cayce, this is your soul's advanced development showing itself. But wait until you hear how this connects to sign number 4. Sign 4, unshakable inner calm during chaos. Despite your deep sensitivity, the fourth sign emerges as profound inner stability. External crises don't destabilize your core. While others panic during turbulence, you become a natural anchor point, not because you're indifferent, but because you've seen this pattern before across lifetimes. Edgar Cayce said that old souls develop what he called the wisdom of experience, a deep knowing that every storm passes, that crisis contains opportunity, that what appears as ending is always also beginning. According to Edgar Cayce's readings, this calm isn't learned in a single lifetime. It's accumulated across multiple incarnations of facing loss, surviving betrayal, weathering devastation, and discovering that something essential within you cannot be destroyed by circumstances. In moments of collective panic, people instinctively turn to you. They can't articulate why, but they sense your groundedness like a lifeline in turbulent waters. You don't preach or offer empty reassurances. Your very presence communicates that it's possible to remain centered when everything tilts. But here's what makes this sign particularly revealing: your calm doesn't come from naivety or denial. Edgar Cayce discovered that advanced souls possess what he called the long view, the ability to see beyond immediate crisis to larger patterns and purposes. You've lived through enough incarnations to know that what feels catastrophic in the moment often reveals itself as necessary transformation in retrospect. This doesn't mean you don't feel pain or fear. It means you've learned not to be controlled by them. You've developed the capacity to feel fully while remaining anchored to something deeper than emotion. And that capacity makes you invaluable to a world that's forgotten how to find its center. Sign 5, prophetic vision others cannot see. The fifth sign manifests as an uncanny ability to perceive what's coming before it arrives. You're perpetually ahead of your time, seeing patterns and cultural shifts before they become obvious to others. Edgar Cayce himself was famous for this prophetic capacity, predicting world events, technological advances, and consciousness shifts decades before they occurred. According to Edgar Cayce, this isn't supernatural. It's the natural result of a soul that has witnessed humanity's patterns across centuries. You speak about changes you perceive, and others dismiss you as impractical or overly dramatic. They're not ready to see what you see. But wait, here's where it gets fascinating. Edgar Cayce discovered through his readings that old souls function as advanced scouts for humanity's evolution. You perceive emerging realities first because your consciousness exists partially in future potentials while most people remain anchored in present circumstances. Years later, when your observations become mainstream knowledge, no one remembers that you spoke of it first. Being a pioneer means carrying the loneliness of vision. According to Edgar Cayce's teachings, this prophetic awareness comes from your soul's accumulated experience with humanity's cyclic patterns. You've witnessed civilizations rise and fall. You've seen the same mistakes repeated across eras. You recognize the signs of transformation because you've lived through transformation before. This gift isolates you. When you share what you perceive, people often react with discomfort or dismissal. They're not ready. They may never be ready in this lifetime. But you cannot unsee what you see. You cannot unknow what you know. Edgar Cayce said that advanced souls must learn to hold their visions lightly, speaking truth when asked but not forcing awareness on those still sleeping. Sign 6, sacred solitude as essential nourishment. The sixth sign reveals itself in your profound need for solitude. For you, time alone isn't social failure or escape from responsibility. It's the sacred space where you return to yourself. Edgar Cayce said that old souls require regular periods of withdrawal because they process reality at much deeper levels than most people. According to Edgar Cayce, what others call alone time, advanced souls experience as soul time, essential nourishment for consciousness operating at expanded frequencies. You often feel like a foreigner in your own era. The speed of modern life, the superficiality of most social interaction, the noise and distraction that others thrive on, these things drain you rather than energize you. But here's what people don't understand: you're not antisocial. You're selectively social. Edgar Cayce discovered through his readings that old souls came from what he called higher vibrational planes, dimensions where consciousness communicates differently, more directly, without the masks and games that dominate human interaction. In solitude, you reconnect with that original way of being. You can hear the quiet voice within that speaks truth when everything external is clamor and confusion. Others may worry you're lonely, but you understand the crucial difference between loneliness and sacred aloneness. According to Edgar Cayce's teachings, solitude allows the soul to integrate experiences, process overwhelming input, and maintain connection to higher guidance. You emerge from these periods renewed, able to engage with the world again because you've touched the still point within that reminds you who you are beneath all roles and obligations. This capacity for productive solitude is one of your greatest strengths, though the world rarely recognizes it as such. Sign 7. Freedom from material attachment. Now we arrive at sign number 7, the one that separates old souls from those still learning through acquisition. You cannot attach meaning to material possessions or external markers of success. Objects feel heavy to you. Temporary. Ultimately empty of real value. Edgar Cayce taught that the experienced soul recognizes the futility of gathering what cannot be carried beyond death. According to Edgar Cayce's readings, old souls have died and been reborn enough times to know with absolute certainty that you arrive with nothing and depart with nothing except what you become internally. This realization didn't come from moral rejection of materialism. It arose naturally from lived experience, from accumulating and losing possessions across multiple lifetimes until the lesson finally penetrated: nothing external lasts. But here's what makes this sign unmistakable: you find richness in simplicity. A sunset moves you more than an expensive purchase. A genuine conversation feeds you more than a prestigious social event. You've internalized the truth that only inner growth and authentic experience constitute lasting treasure. Edgar Cayce discovered that advanced souls often incarnate into challenging financial circumstances specifically to master non-attachment. According to Edgar Cayce, the soul chooses its lessons, and learning to find fulfillment beyond material comfort is a graduate-level curriculum. This doesn't mean you live in poverty or reject beauty. Rather, you recognize essence beneath appearance. You understand that the most valuable things in life, love, wisdom, authentic connection, inner peace, cannot be purchased at any price. Everything else is borrowed scenery in a play that will eventually end. Props you use temporarily before returning them when the curtain falls. Sign 8, Natural kinship with children and elders. The 8th sign shows itself in your profound affinity with both children and the elderly. Edgar Cayce observed that evolved souls recognize in children what he called the newly incarnated consciousness, beings who have recently arrived from the spiritual dimensions and still carry that clarity. Children respond to you differently than they do to most adults. They sense you see them truly, not as projects to mold but as complete souls in smaller bodies. You speak to children with respect, understanding that age doesn't determine soul depth. You listen to their observations, their questions, their imaginative constructions of reality, recognizing in these expressions a wisdom adults have forgotten. According to Edgar Cayce's readings, old souls naturally relate to both ends of the age spectrum because these are the humans closest to the veil, closest to the truth that middle life forgets in its busy preoccupation with building and maintaining. But here's the profound insight: children have recently arrived from mystery. Elders are preparing to return to it. Edgar Cayce said that the elderly often begin remembering past lives as they approach transition. Their consciousness starts loosening from this incarnation's identity, and other lifetimes bleed through. You find kinship with both groups because you stand in that middle space but remain oriented toward the mystery rather than the mundane. When you sit with an elderly person, you're not just being kind. You're communing with a soul preparing for the journey you've taken many times before. When you engage with a child, you're welcoming a consciousness that has just completed that same journey. Real age is measured in soul depth, not years. Sign 9, organic spiritual hunger that never subsides. The 9th sign manifests as spiritual hunger that arises from your core. This isn't crisis-driven seeking. This isn't fear of death or need for comfort. This is a natural requirement of your being, like a plant turning toward light. Edgar Cayce said that old souls possess what he called the urge to know, an unstoppable drive to understand spiritual realities that originates from past life experience with mystical truth. According to Edgar Cayce's teachings, once a soul has tasted direct experience of higher dimensions across previous lifetimes, it cannot forget. It may not consciously remember, but the soul carries that knowing like a compass that constantly orients you toward transcendent reality. The spiritual realm isn't an escape for you. It's a recognition of what is fundamentally real, the invisible scaffolding that holds the visible world. But here's what sets you apart: religious dogmas feel constrictive to your expanded vision. Edgar Cayce discovered that advanced souls have usually explored multiple spiritual traditions across their various incarnations. You may have been a Christian mystic in one lifetime, a Buddhist monk in another, a Celtic priestess in yet another. This creates what Cayce called the syndrome of the spiritual sampler. You draw wisdom from diverse sources, weaving your own understanding because no single tradition contains the fullness of what your soul remembers. You respect traditions but cannot confine yourself to any single interpretation of truth. You know that ultimate reality cannot be contained in words or rules. It must be experienced directly, lived personally, discovered through your own inner journey. Everything becomes spiritual practice when you approach life with this level of awareness. Sign 10, eyes that carry ancient wisdom. The 10th sign is perhaps the most visible to others, a quality in your eyes that cannot be manufactured or hidden. Your gaze carries something that speaks of long inner journeys, of sorrows metabolized into wisdom, of illusions surrendered and truths embraced. Edgar Cayce said that the eyes are windows to the soul's history, that evolved beings carry visible evidence of their accumulated lifetimes in the depth of their gaze. According to Edgar Cayce's readings, when you look into an old soul's eyes, you're not just seeing this lifetime's experiences. You're glimpsing the composite of every life they've lived, every lesson they've learned, every transformation they've endured. When you look at others, you see completely. Not just the persona they present but the truth beneath it. This can be deeply comforting or profoundly unsettling depending on how at peace they are with their own depths. But here's what happens when two old souls meet: there's often a moment of silent recognition that passes between you through eye contact alone. No words needed. The acknowledgement is instantaneous and profound. You know. Edgar Cayce discovered that old souls recognize each other through what he called soul vibration, an energetic signature that transmits through the eyes before any conscious thought occurs. In that moment, the isolation you normally carry eases slightly. Someone else sees what you see. Understands what you understand. Your eyes also reveal your shadow work. You've done the difficult task of facing your darkness, acknowledging your capacity for harm, integrating what you found there rather than projecting it outward. This shows as paradoxical gentleness born from knowing your own hardness. Sign 11, powerful intuition beyond logic. The 11th sign reveals itself in powerful intuition that operates beyond rational analysis. This isn't guesswork or wishful thinking. Your intuition functions as direct access to what Edgar Cayce called the Akashic Records, the universal database of all knowledge, past, present, and future. Edgar Cayce himself accessed these records during his famous trance readings. According to Edgar Cayce, everyone possesses this ability, but old souls have developed it across lifetimes until it becomes second nature. You've learned to trust these inner guidances even when they contradict logic or common opinion. Often your intuitive hits prove accurate in ways that surprise even you. You sense when someone is lying without concrete evidence. You predict outcomes before they unfold. You know you should avoid certain situations without understanding why until later when events reveal the wisdom of your choice. But here's what makes this gift both blessing and burden: you live in a culture that worships rational proof and dismisses subtle knowing. Edgar Cayce discovered that intuitive souls often struggle in modern society precisely because their primary navigation system, inner knowing, is invalidated by a world demanding external evidence. When you act on intuition, others question your decision-making. They suggest you're being irrational or emotional. Yet you've learned the hard way that ignoring your intuition always leads to regret. According to Edgar Cayce's teachings, intuition is not separate from your soul's wisdom. It is your soul speaking, drawing on the accumulated knowledge of all your lifetimes to guide you through this one. Every time you've overridden that quiet inner knowing to please others, you've paid a price. Sign 12, Exceptional Understanding of Human Nature. The 12th and final sign appears in your exceptional understanding of human nature. You see through social masks with ease. You perceive hidden motivations, unconscious patterns, and shadow material that people work hard to conceal. Edgar Cayce said that old souls function as psychic archaeologists, naturally excavating the layers beneath surface presentation because they've accumulated such vast experience with human behavior across lifetimes. According to Edgar Cayce's readings, having faced your own darkness, your own capacity for self-deception, you now read these same patterns in others like a map you've memorized. You're not fooled by charm or impressive presentations. You read energy and intention more accurately than words and actions. Someone speaks beautifully, but you sense the emptiness behind the eloquence. Another person is awkward and inarticulate, yet you perceive the genuine heart beneath the clumsy expression. But here's the cost of this clarity: genuine connection becomes rare and precious. Edgar Cayce discovered that advanced souls often experience profound loneliness precisely because they cannot unsee what they see. Most social interaction occurs on a surface level you can no longer fully inhabit. Small talk exhausts you because you perceive the authentic feelings beneath the polite exchanges, the pain people work so hard to hide, the longings they've learned to deny. You find yourself surrounded by people while feeling profoundly alone, for few are willing or able to meet you at the depth where you naturally reside. You're not arrogant about this awareness. If anything, it makes you more compassionate. You see the wounded child within every adult, the fear beneath every defense. This is the price and privilege of penetrating sight. These 12 signs do not appear as achievements to collect or goals to reach. They emerge naturally, like flowers from a tree with deep roots. Edgar Cayce said that recognizing yourself as an old soul is not cause for pride but an invitation to responsibility. It asks you to honor your unique path, to accept both the gifts and burdens that come with deeper sight. According to Edgar Cayce's readings, old souls incarnate with specific missions. You didn't choose this consciousness casually. Before birth, your soul agreed to carry particular wisdom, to hold certain frequencies, to serve as a bridge between ordinary awareness and expanded consciousness. You cannot unknow what you know. You cannot unsee what you see. You cannot return to unconsciousness once awareness has dawned. But here's what Edgar Cayce discovered that changes everything: you are not alone in this way of being. There are others who walk this path, who understand this particular blend of gifts and loneliness, who see what you see and feel what you feel. The true mark of an evolved soul is humility before the infinite mystery of existence. No matter how much you understand, there are infinite layers still hidden from view. Each answer opens into deeper questions. If these signs resonated with something deep inside you, perhaps you've always known what you're just now beginning to name. This recognition is not the end of a journey but a new beginning, an invitation to live more consciously from the truth of who you are. Share in the comments which sign spoke most directly to your experience. Your story matters. Your ancient knowing has purpose. Let us walk this path together. Thank you so much for staying with me through this exploration. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who might benefit from it. And if you'd like to go a step further in supporting this work, you can now leave a super thanks below. It's a small way to say thank you, and it truly helps keep this channel going.